Hello and welcome to Leaders in Studios, a Portugal edition. We're here in Lisbon, where we travel around the world. Executives from Avenue Code travel around the world and interview technology leaders from all over the place in every single industry and share their stories of creativity, innovations, personal goals, and what drove them to be where they are and how do they see the future of technology. My name is Zio Solomon. I'm the founder and Chief Strategy Officer of Avenue Code, based out of San Francisco. And we're here in Lisbon, Portugal, to interview a very inspiring leader, José Manuel Henriques, who's the CIO, CTO of Crédito Agrícola. Exactly. I hope I didn't just butcher the name. We're supposed to go with a script, but I'm actually going to go off script. Right before we started recording this, Jose was sharing with me how his professional sports career had influenced his life and his decision in where he is right now in life. And I want to cut down to the chase and have him talk more about this.
Oh, thank you. Nice to meet you.
Well, welcome.
Thank you very much.
You can tell us first about yourself a little bit and where you're at and Crédito Agrícola, and then, but I do want to hear from you.
So just before that, I started my career in Anderson Consulting in 1992, and then in 1998 I moved to Deloitte. Always in banking industry and banking business, doing consulting to our financial services customers. Then I moved to Microsoft. I took an adventure and I moved to Paris and I stood there for about 4 years. And then I came back to Portugal to lead a Spanish IT company in Portugal. Most of that business was also focused on financial services. I've been 1.5 years on, if I could say, a very interesting but difficult experience in the north of Portugal in an industrial company, manufacturing, on an energy business and energy transition. And then I became to, if I could say so, because I don't like the word, to my comfort zone. It's not comfort zone, actually, it's my focus expertise, maybe, if I could say so. So I'm at the Crédito Agrícola since April last year, so more or less 10 months now. And as I told you, I like to set objectives because whenever I set an objective for myself, I know that I can achieve it. So, and that is what I want to inspire the people to do. And that's what I do every day with my people, trying to set the objectives for them and then to set their objectives, which is very important. And I learned that also in sport, as I was telling you in the beginning. So I was an amateur sporter. I was doing cycling on a hobby basis, and once I set an objective to win a race, which I actually did. I started setting a new objectives, more ambitious objectives to myself, which most of them I achieved also. So, and I learned a lot about myself because I know that I'm almost like a dog pursuing a cat when I have an objective, which is very interesting because you have a downside on that, which is when you do not have clear objectives, I feel a bit of loss. And sometimes I need to reset to myself, to come back, to set my objectives. Sometimes someone sets my objectives and I have to set my goals and my objectives. And once I'm there, I'm prepared again to fight. And I'm saying fight in a good sense, in a good way. It's I like a good fight as I like a good discussion.
The challenge, that's
the challenge, the chase.
It's very interesting. For those of our young viewers, Anderson Consulting is what's Accenture today. Mm-hmm. Very few people know the story, and it's not really a happy story, but just worth mentioning. It's like
it is an happy story, at least for the managing partners at that time.
That's right. That's right.
So it is an happy story, and I think it's a successful story too.
That absolutely, you're absolutely right. Yeah. I would agree with that. So thank you for joining us. And so let's talk about. So you're saying objectives, and you're now in the banking industry, or particularly you focus around farming. And I wanted to know, what was that an objective, especially that obviously you start working with in your new position right in the middle of the pandemic. And I'm always curious of people that change careers or positions, for that matter, right in the middle of the pandemic. So tell us a little bit more about what objective drove that particular decision in your life.
As I told you before, is going to my core expertise and focus myself on my core expertise and setting a long-term objective for my career, personal career. So being on a pandemic didn't affect my decision at all. Although I have to say that joining a company on the pandemic time, it's not easy. I've been I receive a lot of help from my colleagues, but even though it's not the same. So there is still some people that I do not know that I would like to know personally. When I'm talking to know, I'm saying to know, I'm talking about knowing the people exactly on a face-to-face meeting, not a Teams meeting. Most of my induction was done via Teams with my team members. I know all the people now, but it was not easy, but it was challenging, very challenging. And I think it's also very successful in my perspective.
It's very nice to hear. I do management consulting myself, and one of my most memorable clients, I will have to. I'm unable to mention their name, but they're in a credit union in south of Brazil, who they're all over Brazil, but the headquarters in the south, and they specialize in very similar market segment as you are. And their problem when they were going through the digital transformation were that the cooperatives, the actual credit unions, each one had their own technology and the way of doing things, even mini technology that they were using, different systems, and how can the center credit union control all of them? And it's we're talking about 150 years old organization, so everybody's set on their way, very successful, so you cannot really tell them, hey, follow our ways because you're struggling. No, everyone is quite successful. So I want to know if where are you at right now with your digital transformation?
So there are similar points, but also there are very important differences in comparing with the example you're giving me. The biggest one is that we have one system for everyone. So we have a center, we have a company that manages on a so-called outsourcing based the same system from everyone. So that part has been solved. We are trying to be more efficient in the service we provide, in the solutions we bring. And as for the organization model, it's very similar from the one you mentioned in Brazil. As of digital transformation, we are, I think, pretty advanced comparing to the standard in the market. So we do have a segment, a business line, fully digital, fully app-based for a specific segment of customers. So new, up to 35 years old and affluent customers. So it's a different segment where we are traditionally positioned. Most of our processes are fully digitalized, but there are some improvements for sure for us to attain. We have a very consolidated team also in terms of no mushrooms of technology within the organization, so we do not have that. I think we are pretty well. As for an example, we are the most, if I could say the word, most Azure intense of Azure in our network. So we are the biggest customer of Microsoft Azure in financial services in Portugal. Most of our systems are in the cloud, except for the core banking and treasury system.
Incredible. And
everything else is cloud-based.
So you probably had a much easier time handling the pandemic than
for sure.
Most of us.
For sure.
In my industry, we went from 4 major development centers around the world to 1,000 development centers overnight, which is where everybody had to work from home. And one of the major problems was the security and the infrastructure that you have to adapt to in such a short period of time.
I was not in the company at a time when we had to adapt, but for now, everyone could be on remote. Everything could be done on remote, and actually, most of the work is now being done in the remote.
That's very nice.
Although I don't think the remote could solve anything in the organization. Actually, on the contrary.
Tell me more about that. What do you mean by that?
What I mean by that? So, it depends on the people. It depends on the character and the personality of each person, I think. But if in the last 2 years, if I could learn something on the remote work is, if you want to solve problems, don't solve the problems on remote. Hardly. If you have a problem within a team, going on remote, it won't solve the problem. It will enlarge, for certainly, the problem.
I'm very interested because I actually come from the same school of thoughts, but I've been getting a lot of pushback from people that completely embraced distributed teams and they think that it's the future. And I want to hear your take on it.
No. My personal opinion, whenever there is a problem within a team, if the team goes on remote, the problem won't be solved, for sure. Because I think that you can only solve problems with a team with the people talking face to face. We are social animals.
Yeah.
I don't know how it is in States, but the way you behave in the street, out in the street, is different the way you behave inside the car while driving, because there is a glass between you and the other driver. So you are more open to say something that you wouldn't say while on a face-to-face.
That's right. Yeah.
Encounter. And the same happens on a video conference or a Teams session. The same. So the people become more aggressive. The people don't care the same as they care within a face-to-face meeting. It's my perception. And if I learned something, that was certainly a learning lesson.
That's amazing. That's actually a very acute observation of what the personal dynamic in person and online can vary quite specifically. I mean, you can take email as a communication even before the pandemic, and people put their guts down in emails and say whatever they want to, like basically use the email as a psychotherapy. And it has always been the worst way to communicate because of the same reason, that you don't have the
you don't have the data feedback.
Yeah. So what do you think? We have to go back? Like, the world has to go back to the office?
No, I think in the middle there is the
hybrid.
That's the sweet spot.
I think so too. I totally agree with you.
So
on that.
I think we'll be be much more flexible. I think we will be much less resistive to the people wanting to go on remote, but we need to adapt for some functions, some people to be on site, and some people needs to be on remote.
Very well said.
A size doesn't fit all at all.
Absolutely, it never did before anyway, but very well said. I do want to talk about banking because it's a very near and dear subject to my heart. It's one of the oldest established trade in the world, right next to commerce, actual commerce, where you used to go to a market and trade things every Sunday after church. And I do want to talk about the new innovative way to bank, which actually the pandemic had drove it in. I mean, one of the things that I embraced, that technology saved the world during the pandemic. You could see a doctor without leaving your house. You could do your banking transaction, receive money, order things, etc. If it wasn't for the technology infrastructure that supported this, we would have literally had wars and mass starvation, but we didn't. We survived it. And banking, the new way of banking, I want to see what you think of that. What is the future of banking in your mind, given everything that we've dealt with in the last few years?
Let me make a comment on something you said. So banking is not a very well-established business. It was a very well-established business. And I think banking business is facing a disruptive moment today, now. Okay. And I compare that disruptive moment as the same that happened to Kodak with the digital photography. And curiously, the threat is also digital in terms of new way of doing banking. So new players are not banks. My biggest competitors might be banks, but in the future, my biggest competitors won't be banks.
What would they be?
Will be fintechs, will be telco operators, will be social platforms.
Very interesting.
Will be everything. So once you go in China, you can do a payment with WeChat. WeChat is similar to WhatsApp. And once you pay a transaction with WeChat, you are not using any bank in the middle. With blockchain, you are not using banks in the middle. So we are in a moment that we are fighting against a lot of threats. The social platforms, the fintechs, our competitors, because the pool is becoming smaller, maybe. We don't know yet. So it's a very challenging moment, but I think we will succeed with a lot of transformation for sure.
Well, the smart ones will.
The smart ones will, for sure. Very similar to what IBM did in the 20s, in 2000.
That's right.
They transformed from a product company to a service company.
You know, you remind me a lot of one observation. I recently just moved to Miami, and I was looking for new places to work. One of them is a coffee shop, and I was looking at the list of the best coffee shops in the city to actually take your computer and have a Wi-Fi and work. And the second best one was a bank, not a coffee shop, which was very interesting in the sense that, you know, you probably can search this, everyone, and know which bank I'm talking about, but they teamed up with Peet's Coffee, and it's really small portion of Peet's Coffee is the bank, and the rest is a coffee shop that people just hang out. You find people lounging on beanbags in a bank. So, I mean, the way that they decided to interact with their customers as a bank, which is the most traditional, you know, establishments, physical establishments that we know of, to just make it really a place to socialize. And yeah, you can do your banking too, but you're not there for that. So it's very interesting what you're saying. Like, I am eager to know what's the new gen of banking will look like.
It's you can now do a loan without going to a bank.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. In China, they evaluate your risk profile using your social network profile, which is very interesting. We don't do that. We are not allowed to do that. In China, they do.
I am afraid of that. I mean, we all see Black Mirror. We've all seen Black Mirror, and we've seen the results of having to do this. So I don't want to someone, if I look the wrong way to someone, they're gonna give me 2 stars.
But at the same time, is coming back to basics, which is I know who you are depending on who your friends are.
Absolutely, yes. So my next question is around, you know, the post-COVID life and new idea and opportunity that your organization will benefit from. I see that you're thinking about hybrid, distributed teams, but in general, how do you see your team and your organization, technology specific, obviously going to evolve after the pandemic is over, which is, we're almost at the tail end of that. And once we start going back to work, while embracing the distributed model to some extent, how do you see your team going?
We have a lot of transformation in our bank going on. So regardless that transformation, which is not COVID dependent, it's, I think, leveraged by the COVID itself, we already took a decision that we will have some functions that could work from remote and some functions that need to be on site. And that's for sure that will happen. In terms of locations, we will be much more flexible on the location. Even because there is a problem here, and I think you also might have that in the States, which is a lack of resources. So we fight for having good resources, and now the resources are open to the world. So it's not a problem of we don't have. The problem is that our people can work for everywhere in the world, and we also can source people from everywhere in the world. So I think the term location will be much more vague and volatile. So maybe in the future we don't have the notion of what is your location. It's the planet Earth.
So you are agreeing that you can actually utilize this for talent acquisition and talent retention. Absolutely.
A lot.
I agree with you.
So it's a benefit for the people in both ways. They can work for every company in the world, and I can source people from every country in the world.
How about like the equalization of costs as well?
It will happen. It will happen in the long term, for sure. It will happen in the long term if you don't do anything, and that comes to the innovation. The price variance will be based on the innovation you bring.
That's right.
Which is the innovation business itself, I think.
So let's use this as a segue to like what's the modern CIO in your opinion? You know, we've known the traditional CTO role, you know, in charge of choosing the right technology, getting the right infrastructure and org structure for the team. But what do you see different in the modern CTO? Apology. What do you see different in the modern CIO, CTO moving forward?
Let me answer that in two different standpoints. The modern CIO will be similar to the old CIO in terms of, in the banking for sure, to ensure the reliability of the systems, the quality of the systems, and the efficiency of the systems and of the whole IT function. I think the modern CIO should be more responsible to challenge his team to move forward, to move beyond their comfort zone and look for new technologies and new opportunities. That's my perception, and it will be much more intense in the future because we need to look outside of our comfort zone and outside of our business to gain competitive advantages to our banking business. Okay. So it's not just a question of price. It's not just a question of distribution network. It's also a question of offer and flexibility and solutions you bring to the customers and the integration you have with partners.
What do you think the most exciting new technology coming up in the banking industry right now? You don't have to give me any proprietary information, but
no, not at all. I'm really thinking. I'm thinking on the possibilities of the artificial intelligence and deep learning, for sure. Security technology. And interesting, the security is not the most interesting, it's the must-have, which is it's a different thing. And blockchain, and the threat becoming from the cryptocurrencies to our banking business.
And you do think
and I see that as a threat, and also as very interesting to know.
So you see it as an opportunity?
Could be an opportunity.
Very interesting.
And the blockchain technology could be a very good opportunity to solve some existing problems.
I think the blockchain technology in general, not geared for monetary exchange, but it can do a lot of other things. That's one application of it. So, absolutely. So I thank you so much, but I have one last question. I cannot end this interview without asking. So for young, up-and-coming technology leaders, what's your what's your learning? What do you want to tell them? What to watch out for? The pitfalls, the experience that you want to share with them. The gems, what they're called.
The gyms, listen, and always be open to learn. Your people have a lot of things to teach you.
Very nice.
Be open.
Very nice. Well, thank you so much for all your insights. And for our viewers, please subscribe. If you have any questions, please add it to the comments. And we look forward to having you in our next Leaders in Studio episode. Thank you.